Does the narcissist have a favourite? Of course I do. It's you. Yes, you just there. That's right. I'm pointing at you. Listening to me now. You're my favourite. You're the special one. You get me. You're the only one that does. You're my favourite. Does the narcissist have a favourite? Well, the answer is yes, but it very much depends upon context and awareness. Let me take you through this. If the context is the potency of fuel, then the favourite is the former intimate partner primary source. Their fuel is the most potent, for reasons explained in my book, Fuel. They sit at the top of the potency tree. It's important to remember that when it comes to the concept of fuel, it has three constituent parts: amount, potency, and frequency. Therefore, if a former intimate partner primary source is crying as a consequence of the behavior of the narcissist and is crying in front of the narcissist and is physically proximate, we are receiving a huge amount of negative fuel, which is the most potent fuel that we can ever get from the most potent appliance. And the frequency is for as long as she continues to cry, or he continues to cry. So potency is just one strand within the fuel. The amount and the frequency are important as well. Therefore, if the question is, do we have a favourite in terms of potency of fuel? Then the answer is yes. It's the former intimate partner primary source. An unaware narcissist doesn't realise this. So the lesser and mid-range narcissists don't realise that this individual is favoured. All they will experience is the impact of that potent fuel when interacting with the individual. And that is part of the reason why the former intimate partner primary source isn't left alone. But that's another topic for another discussion. What about the question of, does the narcissist have a favourite with regard to the fuel matrix as a whole? With regard to the person or people that cater to the prime aims the most effectively. The prime aims being the individual that is the easiest to control, the one that provides us with the most fuel, most frequently, and at the highest potency, the individual that provides us with the most character traits and the most residual benefits. Do we have a favourite with regard to somebody who caters to those prime aims? The answer is yes. It's the current intimate partner primary source. That's why they're the primary source. That's why they're chosen and elevated, embedded in that position, because they are the one that caters to the prime aims the most. So we want to be able to avail ourselves of them often and repeatedly. Hence, they become the primary source. We live with them. We marry them. The fuel is provided often in large amounts because we're physically proximate to them, and although they're not the most potent within the fuel matrix, they are ranked second. So they're extremely potent nonetheless. And of course, we're going to be interacting more with the current intimate partner primary source than we would be with the former, meaning, therefore, that when you take those three strands of fuel, amount, frequency, and potency together, over time, the current intimate partner primary source caters to that better than the former. With regard to control, it's invariably easier to control the current intimate partner primary source than anybody else. They're the one that will provide us with more character traits by reason of us knowing more about them and spending more time with them. And of course, with regard to residual benefits, because we're with them more often and in that relationship, they're more likely to be able to provide us with those residual benefits, ranging from giving us a lift, the provision of sex, somewhere to live, the provision of money, doing household chores, doing the laundry, doing the cooking, looking after the narcissist when ill, and so on and so forth. So the current intimate partner primary source is the one that's favoured with regard to the provision of the prime aims. That also remains the case that when that person is in devaluation. So it's not just when they're in the golden period. When the current intimate partner primary source is in the golden period, they are not only regarded consciously as the favourite of the narcissist, but they're also unconsciously, where you're dealing with an unaware narcissist, the favourite in terms of the provision of the prime aims, and that continues into devaluation. Of course, the narcissist doesn't regard them as their favourite person any longer because they're a hateful traitor and they're in devaluation, the sustained devaluation. But they remain our favourite for catering to the prime aims. Why? We're still able to control them. They still provide us with large amounts of highly potent, frequent fuel. Indeed, when they're giving us negative fuel, the potency is elevated even further because negative fuel is more potent than positive fuel. They will continue to still provide us with residual benefits. Admittedly, in certain instances, the empath might start to go on strike with regard to some of those things, but that's unusual. Most empaths bend over backwards to try and accommodate the narcissist, particularly those which have significant martyr traits in their empathic makeup. Perhaps catering to keeping the house spick and span, trying to give the narcissist more sex, looking after the narcissist, buying more gifts, trying to get the golden period back. So in actual fact, even though they're in devaluation, they might actually try even harder. We can control them, they're providing more residual benefits, the character traits remain as they did before, and the fuel is amplified. They may actually be fountaining with more fuel, and dependent upon if they have a Giza cadre and how strong that Giza cadre is, it might be that they fountain with more fuel with regard to negative emotions, anger, pain, hurt, distress. So not only are we receiving more potent fuel by reason of it being negative fuel from the current intimate partner primary source, they're actually giving us more of it because it's amplified by reason of that Giza cadre when they're in sustained devaluation. So, with regard to the provision of the prime aims, the current intimate partner primary source is favourite both when in the golden period, which also includes a respite period, and when being devalued. If they didn't cater to all of those things still, of course, we would have jettisoned them. There would have been disengagement. But there isn't, because there hasn't been a trigger, and they still serve a considerable purpose to us. Of course, when the individual who is the current intimate partner primary source is in devaluation, we don't regard them as our favourite. Consciously, they are not. But unconsciously, they are. That's why they still remain in situ. What about the situation at any given moment in time? Who might our favourite be then? Well, this is where it varies. During the golden period, it's the intimate partner primary source who is the favourite. During devaluation period, where we're not interacting with the intimate partner primary source, so we're away from them, so we're not getting any fuel from them, we're not receiving the residual benefit, in that instance, it would be an intimate partner secondary source who's been taken off the shelf. They will be viewed consciously as the favourite because they are in the golden period and the IPPS is in devaluation. But they're also favoured because in that moment of interaction, they're the one providing us with all of the fuel. The IPPS isn't because we're not interacting with them. The IPSS may well be providing us with certain residual benefits in that moment. The IPPS in devaluation isn't because we're not interacting with them. If we're not interacting with an IPSS off the shelf, then the non-intimate secondary source would be our favourite, a favoured friend or family member, again because we're dealing with them in the moment. And the intimate partner primary source, who may well be in the golden period or in devaluation, isn't being interacted with. So we don't favour them because there's no interaction with them in that moment. So the narcissist may be in the golden period with the intimate partner primary source, but has gone off to see a friend for the afternoon. That friend in that moment is the favoured one. Why? They're the one providing us with the fuel. They are the one that's doing a barbecue for us, residual benefit, supplying us with the beers. We're not engaging with the current IPPS, so they're not the favourite. It doesn't mean that we are against them, we're just not interacting with them. Similarly, if we're in the throes of hoovering the former intimate partner primary source, perhaps zipping back for a quick bunk up with them, conning them into believing that we want them back, then they are the favourite in the moment. So, if we are under the sheets with them for a little bit of hanky-panky, then the current intimate partner primary source is in devaluation, isn't being dealt with, therefore no fuel coming from them, no residual benefits being felt at that moment in time, and with the former intimate partner primary source, we're getting the residual benefit of some slap and tickle, and we are receiving huge amounts of fuel from them very frequently as they ooh and ah their way through various orgasmic scenarios, and it's highly potent because they are the former intimate partner primary source. So they become the favourite. So with regard to answering the question of does the narcissist have a favourite, it very much varies upon the context. And thus, it's an expansive answer. However, I suspect that many of you, when you saw this title, your mind went to this. Does the narcissist have a favourite out of everybody that the narcissist has ever interacted with? I.e., was there someone who was a girlfriend who was favoured more than others over the other girlfriends or over the other wives? Is there a friend that's favoured over the other friends? And that is where many people wonder. For instance, they may well think to themselves, I provided the best fuel, I provided the best residual benefits, and therefore I'm clear that I was the favoured one. And therefore it leads to the question, does the narcissist share that view of you being the favourite? Were you the best of the intimate partner primary sources? If I went wandering into my asylum of the grotesque, would I select one individual and say, you were far superior to all of the others? The answer is no. You're all appliances, and therefore you all had a function. So the intimate partner primary source provides the same level of potency as another intimate partner primary source. And that individual may well have performed in terms of providing more residual benefits than another. It may be the case that they provided more character traits compared to a different intimate partner primary source. But we don't actually have a favourite. You are all appliances, and therefore are seen in that similar way. You, understandably, may well think that you were the favourite compared to the others, but that's because the narcissist will have made you feel that way. We have a favourite in the moment, but when one stands back from that and it's analysed in the subconscious, we don't. You are all the same. You are the same as all of the other intimate partner primary sources. The intimate partner secondary source is the same as all of the other ones. Of course, when we're dealing with you, we make you feel special, and we will triangulate you with other ones. Oh, you're far better than my ex-wife. She was an awful woman. Always spending her money on ridiculous hairdos. Never put out. Because, of course, she's been painted black, so everything about her is viewed through that lens. And she's smeared and triangulated with to make you feel special. Oh, you're the best. This is the best sex that I've ever had. We said that to the last one, and the one before that, and we'll say it to the one after you. Basically, does the narcissist have a favourite? The answer is yes, in the moment we do, and it's you, because you're the one that we're dealing with. But when you're all lined up, you are so many mannequins. You're all exactly the same, there to function for us with the provision of the prime aims. And even where an individual might be said to have catered to the prime aims more effectively than another, so comparing intimate partner primary source as against intimate partner primary source, then in such circumstances, there isn't actually any favoritism that goes on because of the mindset of the narcissist that you are just all appliances to us. So it's an interesting question about, does the narcissist have a favourite? And it all depends, as I mentioned at the outset of this video, on context and awareness. And with regard to that question of where you wonder whether you are the favoured one compared to the others, it's a yes and no answer. Yes in the moment, yes when you're in the golden period, yes when you're being seduced, but no when viewed afterwards in the context of everybody else. I'm H.G. Tudor. Thank you for listening.